break it was 3. Stallard again, nothing gentle this time. Notts County are looking the business.
First defeat for Oxford, they had Steve Antrobus sent off on 58 minutes. And what about that result for Chesterfield? They even had a man sent off, and David Reeves scored all 4 goals. The first 2 were penalties. Into the 3rd division now. Cheltenham Town enjoyed their first Football League win last week. Today they wanted to make it their first 3 home points at Whaddon Road. They were playing Hull City.
This year is full of firsts for Cheltenham Town, and 3 more came within seconds this afternoon. First penalty, first home goal, first strike for Hugh Macaulay. And after 90 minutes, another milestone. First home win. Cheltenham 1, Hull City 0.
And well done to them. Peterborough United have started the season as though they mean business this time. 2 out of 2 for Barry Fry. Could they make it a hat-trick against Leyton Orient?
Barry Fry's mix of youth and experience at London Road. Matthew Etherington, who's still only 18, with the first and the second before the break for Steve Castle, and nothing was going to get in his way. Matt Lockwood pulled one back for Leyton Orient, but Peterborough the winners.
Well, still no win yet for Shrewsbury, and it's 3 defeats in 3 for Mansfield. Into the Premiership, not sure whether Petrescu scored it or whether it was an Ehiogun goal. Either way, disappointing defeat for Aston Villa. Well, I didn't think they wrote them like this anymore. Real Roy Race of Melchester Rovers stuff this, but in fact it was Robbie Keane of Coventry. Goals on 43 and 67. What a start. And this was a tale of 2 Paolos. It was enough after Heskey scored that first goal for Leicester to mean that Leicester were beaten. Join us tomorrow at 6:30. More goals. Goals Extras back next week. Bye-bye.
Goals Extra, supported by Nationwide Building Society, official sponsor of the Nationwide Football League.
It's just sheer pressure.
Well taken, and into the corner. Oh, bang, bang, bang.
Probably fairly driving test if he did that.
Name on the trophy.
And if the rest of them are as good as this,
after the news from ITN, Steve Penk is set to make more unsuspecting lives even more miserable in Would I Lie to You? That's at 6:05.
So, you use Persil Non-Bio tablets?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that because you're concerned about the little one's delicate skin?
Yeah. And the big ones.
Persil Non-Bio. Are you the sensitive type?
Oh, it's so hot out there. Does anyone fancy a mint?
No.
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 Tic Tac, anyone? One tiny Tic Tac refreshes my breath for 2 hours and only 2 calories. Tic Tac, always in mint condition.
Oh, sorry I'm late. Thought I'd never get here. The car needs a really good going over, but I haven't had time.
Really, Gilly? You know MasterFit service Vauxhalls while you wait, so you don't need an appointment. Now, when was it last time? Anyway, they were very quick.
Yes, well, they're always very reasonable here.
Good value, I've heard.
I'll get started on it right away, OK? Even a major service can be carried out while you wait, and always by Vauxhall-trained technicians. MasterFit. Put your Vauxhall in the hands of the experts.
Buy a national lottery ticket and an instant ticket together, and you'll receive a winning wallet, which guarantees a prize. There are 16 cars to be won, 17 million holiday vouchers, and loads more prizes. So, from August 13th, for 16 days only, everyone's a winner.
With Kodak Gold Ultra, you never miss a moment. Come rain or shine, this film gets great results almost every time. Kodak Gold Ultra, film for all conditions.
in tomorrow's Sunday People. Don't miss it. Game On Plus, your free extra magazine packed with all you need to know about your team's chances this season. Inside news, expert views, all the action. Don't miss it. Game On Plus, your new extra football magazine, free in tomorrow's Sunday People.
Last year, it started with a bang.
This is the worst start I have ever seen.
It ended in British celebration.
Even Hill, fantastic.
This year, we go to Belgium with a real chance of a British world champion.
Eddie Irvine wins brilliantly.
But the chase is underway.
The winner is Mika Hakkinen.
With just 2 points in it, it doesn't get closer than this. The Belgian Grand Prix, live next weekend on ITV.
It's time now for World News from ITV.
Turkey rushes to bury its dead as disease threatens the living. Teenage eco-warrior and her youth army battle to save woodlands. And England's cricketers bowl their way back into contention.
From ITN, the ITV Weekend News with Andrea Catherwood.
Good evening. The desperate search to find people still alive beneath the devastation of Turkey's earthquake is continuing. But it's a search now going on alongside a frantic rush to bury the thousands of dead before disease can take hold. Yet 4 days on, rescues are still happening. Among those dug out today, a girl of 10 and a woman of 95. From the earthquake zone, John Irvine reports.
In the sweltering heat of the Turkish summer, the retrieval and burial of the dead has become the priority. For the spread of disease is a major concern. The battered people of the earthquake zone are threatened by typhoid and cholera. And yet, in the midst of all this misery, there are still minor miracles happening. Overnight, an Israeli team dug out a 10-year-old girl. After 100 hours entombed, the child was semi-conscious. They soon managed to revive her. She was dehydrated but alive, and for her mother, a cruel and agonizing wait was over. Across this region, the Turkish authorities are at last beginning to coordinate the relief effort. However, in some remote areas, people are still having to fend for themselves. At this seaside village, the earthquake was followed by a tidal wave. Parts of the coastline were eaten away by the force of the sea, and the consequences were tragic. After the tidal wave, there was a huge backwash, and the torrent of water quite literally dragged several people out of their homes and out to sea. 4 days on, those people are still missing, and they are presumed drowned. Dozens of makeshift hospitals have been set up across the region. At the moment, they're treating the injured of the earthquake, but medics say they could soon be faced with an epidemic. Already they're having to use mass graves here. The official death toll stands at more than 11,000, but the United Nations is predicting it will rise to more than 3 times that number. John Irvine, ITN, Northern Turkey.
And John Irvine is at a hospital in Izmit now. John, do rescuers think that it's likely many more people are still trapped alive in the rubble?
Well, there is always hope. There's always a chance that people will be found in the rubble. Indeed, in the last 24 hours, 6 people have been got out alive. But I'm afraid to say that for every one of those individuals, there are hundreds of corpses being uncovered. And of course, that is the problem. It creates a sanitary problem here. Rescue workers, some of them have chosen to leave Turkey this evening. Indeed, one British rescue worker said that he had come here to save lives, and now realistically that possibility had gone.
John, what is being done now to limit the threat of disease?
Well, at hospitals like this one, the injured are being inoculated, rescue workers are also being inoculated, but there simply aren't enough vaccines to go around the general public, and there is a genuine sanitation problem here. Rubbish isn't being collected, you have decay in the wrecked buildings, you have a sewage system that's being wrecked. It's also dry at the minute, but there is the threat of rain, and that could increase the threat of disease, the fear being that rainwater would drain disease into the drinking water system, and of course illnesses like typhoid are passed through water.
John Irvine, thank you very much. To other news now, sailors, pilots and hill walkers are being warned that the high-tech navigation system they rely on could be thrown into chaos tonight. On the stroke of midnight, the global positioning system will reset its clocks, causing some older receivers to crash. Ross Childs explains.
Units on boats or planes around the world could fail tonight when the system is hit by its own version of the millennium bug. Satellites orbiting 20,000 kilometres out in space allow GPS users to pinpoint their position back on Earth to within a matter of feet. Receivers pick up the high-frequency radio signals from 4 of the satellites and from them estimate their longitude, latitude and height. The system works on a 20-year cycle which ends at midnight GMT. Receivers that haven't been programmed to cope may reset themselves to the start of the cycle, January the 6th, 1980, effectively blinding them to the network. GPS started life as a US military system, and the US government has issued warnings about the midnight rollover. There has been some criticism of British authorities for being too slow to officially alert GPS users here of tonight's potential problems. The Department of Transport says aviation and shipping regulators issued warnings a year ago, and as GPS is a US defense system, it's up to the Americans to protect their customers. More recently made GPS units have software to cope with the problem, so models built in the last 5 years will not be affected. It's older models that may fail or more dangerously give an inaccurate reading. By far the biggest users of GPS are boat owners, but boating experts say there's no need for panic.
There's a handful of these units, probably 1% of the ones which Scotsmen use, which you just simply won't be able to repair. On others you will have to switch them off and switch them back on again, and then they should be okay. On others you have to actually replace a chip on them to get them fixed.
If you are worried, the advice is, for tonight, stick to the old-fashioned navigational methods. Ross Childs, ITN.
Police in Manchester are treating as suspicious the deaths of 2 men who fell from the 8th floor of a hotel. The men, who've not been named, are thought to have fallen from a window of the Renaissance Hotel onto a flat roof below. Police have been questioning 8 witnesses. A man has been remanded in custody by magistrates in South Wales, charged with attempting to steal more than £250,000 from Securicor. Alan Mills from Caerphilly was arrested after police found a Securicor van abandoned near a disused quarry minutes after it disappeared during a routine run. There's been a standoff between police and animal rights protesters outside a farm in West Sussex, which supplies medical laboratories with monkeys. The protesters believe monkeys are being imported in totally inhumane conditions and want the trade banned. An attempt by the United Nations to draw up a permanent peace framework for Kosovo has suffered a setback. One of the main players, the leader of the Kosovo Liberation Army, failed to turn up for a crucial meeting of Kosovo's post-war political leaders. It comes amid a background of renewed violence against Serbs still living in Kosovo, as our correspondent there, Mark Webster, now reports.
Gunmen opened fire on this cafe, crowded with Serbs, leaving bullet holes in the walls and 4 people wounded. After a second attack here, frightened villagers feared, with no progress on a political understanding, random violence will increase.
People are very scared and they're afraid and they're not safe here. They think they're not safe here. They're not safe here.
But do you think people will leave? Do you think people would go to...
They want to stay in this village.
But half these villagers have already fled to Serbia, and others say they'll only stay if they get round-the-clock protection from KFOR soldiers. What happened in this village is symptomatic of a much wider problem of intimidation of the remaining Serbian community here in Kosovo. If KFOR proves unable to stop it, then the calls for many more troops to be brought in will become louder. While these weapons have been handed in by the Kosovo Liberation Army, it's plain that some extremist elements won't abandon their victimization of the Serbs. And as Kosovo's politicians met for the second time today, the absence of the KLA representative meant that relations between the 2 communities are bound to worsen. Tonight, special British patrols will be out again in Pristina, checking that elderly Serbs aren't being intimidated into leaving. but many are simply too frightened to stay. Mark Webster, ITN, Kosovo.
Here, teenage eco-warriors are waging war against developers who want to build houses on a wildlife site near where they live in Essex. They've now declared squatters' rights and insist they're determined to delay building for as long as possible. Here's Annabelle Roberts.
Fiona, please, can you go and get some fire, like big bits?
For the last 4 weeks, lighting fires has been part of 15-year-old Christiana Tugwell's daily routine. She and 8 friends are camping on an 11-acre site at Hockley in Essex. They're protesting against plans to build 66 houses here and have officially occupied the land and plan to stay till they're evicted.
Hopefully we'll be staying here for as long as we possibly can. There may be some problems for the under-16s with social services, but hopefully we've got enough people here who are over 18 who are responsible to carry it on.
Christiana's brother Eddie is 13. Most of the other protesters are under 16. They say they're running the camp under strict rules to try to avert complaints about their age. Their protest has attracted the attention of some veterans of previous campaigns against developers, who are now at Hockley showing the youngsters the ropes.
A lot of the parents of the children that are down here are more than happy to have them here, because we're showing them how to do stuff. We keep them happy. They go home happy every day, the ones that have to go home. I don't see a problem with it at all.
The young protesters will leave the wildlife behind them for their first appearance in court next week. Annabelle Roberts, ITN.
They were planning, they were starting.
And now it's over to Graham Miller with today's sport.
A very important day for Ruud Gullit and Newcastle under pressure. All week after those 3 defeats in a row, there was much resting on the result against Wimbledon at St James's Park. But once again, Newcastle let a lead slip. It finished Newcastle 3, Wimbledon 3. And Ruud Gullit's grip on the manager's job must be getting ever looser. Gary Speed put Newcastle 1 up after only 7 minutes. Gullit's side went 3-1 ahead, but once again threw it all away late in the second half. 2 goals from Wimbledon's Gareth Ainsworth earned the visitors their point, the equaliser coming in the very last minute. It hasn't been a good day for Paul Gascoigne either. He limped off after just 19 minutes of Middlesbrough's game with Liverpool. Gazza was looking to impress the watching Kevin Keegan, with England's squad for the vital Euro 2000 games being named later this week. Brian Deane, though, made up for the disappointments with the Middlesbrough winner against Liverpool, a victory which takes Borough joint top of the Premiership. Spurs are the other joint leaders. Les Ferdinand sent them on their way with their first goal at Sheffield Wednesday, Spurs winning 2-1. Here's another happy man tonight, Robbie Keane, who made his debut for Coventry against Derby and scored both the goals in their 2-0 victory. So Robbie Keane beginning to pay back that £6 million price tag. Now, a week ago, Tommy Mooney scored the only goal at Anfield to give newcomers Watford their famous win at Liverpool. And he's been on the scoresheet once again, this time getting the only goal to see off Bradford in the battle of the Premiership new boys at Vicarage Road. In Scotland, Rangers have won 4-1 for the second week running. This time Dundee United were on the receiving end. Claudia Rayner setting the goal feast going in the first half at Ibrox.